Good day, viewers at home. Today we want to look at another topic: quadratic expressions. How to factorize any given quadratic expression. Quadratic expressions are expressions in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. That is, you have a variable which is squared, and then you have some coefficients which are constants. So when you are given an expression in this form, let's take for instance x squared plus 13x minus 30. So, and in factorization, you must bring out something that is common to all the terms. Now, we have x squared plus 13x minus 30. There is something common to x squared and 13x, that is x. But 30 does not have anything in common with the remaining two terms. So how do we now factorize it? How do we now bring out the common factor? First of all, we need to break this expression into 4 terms instead of 3. Then we'll now group them to factorize. So there are steps to follow. The first thing, you multiply your a by c. What is a? A in this question is 1 because a is the coefficient of the squared letter. So a here is 1. Our b here is plus 13 and our c is minus 30. So if you multiply 1 by 30, you still get 30. So now you will write out the factors of 30. So 30 is 1 multiplied by 30, 2 multiplied by 15, 3 multiplied by 10, 4 cannot divide 30, 5 can divide 30 6 times. Then after 5, you have 6 times 5 again. Since I've written 5 and 6, then there is no need for me to write 6 and 5. That is where you know where to stop. So, having written the factors of 30, how do we now pick two numbers that when you add them together, you will get plus 13. And when you multiply them together, you will get minus 30. Now, there is a table I'm going to give us here that will make it very easy to know which factor to choose. We have b and we have c. We have the smaller factor and the greater factor. This table will make it easier for us to know what sign to assign to the factors. When b is positive and c is positive, the smaller factor will be positive and the greater factor will also be positive. When b is negative and c is positive, the two factors will be negative. When c is negative and b is negative and c is negative, the smaller factor will be positive and the greater one will be what? Negative. So, and the last one, when b is positive and c is negative, the smaller factor is going to be negative and the greater factor will be positive. So if you are familiar with this table, it will be easy to pick factors here. So from this table now, we have our b to be positive and the c is negative, which is the last column and the last row. B is positive and c is negative. So that means the smaller factors will be negative and the greater one will be positive. The smaller factors are the one you have at this side. These are the greater factors. So negative and all these are positive. So now, which of these pairs are we going to take that will give us plus 13? And from this, you can see that it is only minus 2 and plus 15 that will give us plus 13. So we are going to now replace this plus 13 with the two factors. So we will remove this and we'll now be left with minus 2x plus 15x minus 30. So now we have broken them from 3 into 4 terms. We will now pair them in 2's and factorize. X squared and 2x, what is common? X. This one is now left with x, and if you divide 2x by x, you are left with only 2. You bring down the sign, plus 15 and 30, their highest common factor is 15. Don't forget, 3 can divide both of them, 5 can also divide both numbers, and 15 can as well divide. But 15 is the biggest factor common to 15 and 30, so 15 is going to be the highest common factor. Here we'll be left with x. 15 divides 30, 2. From our previous lesson on quadratic equations, we discovered that we said whatever you have in this bracket must also be in this bracket. If you're having different variables or different values here, that means something is wrong somewhere. So now, out of these two common factors, you pick one, then the other factors outside bracket, you put them in brackets. So with this, you have factorized this expression to give us s minus 2, s plus 15. So we've looked at an example when the coefficient is 1. Let's take another question where the coefficient of s squared is more than 1. Let's take another question where the coefficient is more than 1. We have 3s squared minus 10x plus 8. So 3s squared minus 10s plus 8. Here, as we did in the previous one, the first thing you multiply 3 by 8, that is 24. So now we'll list out the factors of 24. That is 1 multiplied by 24, 2 multiplied by 12, 3 multiplied by 8, 4 multiplied by 6, 5 cannot divide 24. After that 5, we have 6. That's 6 and 4. But we are splitting 4 and 6, so there is no need for us to write 6 and 4. So we are going to stop at this. Now, from the table, our B is negative and C is positive, which is the second row. B is negative, C is positive. That means the smaller factor and the greater factor will be both negative. So now, both of them are negative. Don't forget, these are the smaller factors, these are the greater factors. So which of these pairs will give us minus 10? That is minus 4 and minus 6. So now we are going to replace this minus 10 with these two factors that we have picked. So we have 3x squared. I would rather write minus 6 first before minus 4 because 3 and 6 have something in common. Minus 6x minus 4x plus 8. That means it doesn't matter if 4 or 6 comes first. What matters most is we are replacing this minus 10 with minus 4 and minus 6. So now we have 4 terms. We are going to pair them. 3 and 6, the highest common factor is 3. And x is also common. So you open a bracket. Here we are left with only x. Minus 3 divides 6, 2. You close the bracket. You know, there is x here, but we already factorized x out. So there won't be any x again. Bring down the sign, minus 4 and 8. 2 is a common factor, and 4 is also a common factor. So we are going to pick 4 because it is bigger than 2. This one we are left with x. There is a negative sign outside the bracket. That means this positive sign is going to change to a negative 1. How did I get this 2? 4 divides 8, 2. Be careful of the sign. Whenever there is a negative sign outside the bracket, it changes this positive sign to negative. But if it is positive, it does not affect anything. So, like in the previous example, we see that what we have in the bracket are the same. You pick one out of the two, then open another bracket, put this 3x minus 4. So with this, we have factorized this expression into x minus 2 and 3x minus 4. In our next lesson, we shall take a look at how to factorize difference of two squares. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe.